Taming the tongue. What is James trying to tell us this week? Did we say anything bad?
I'm not sure, but it sounds confusing, like the first few verses from chapter 3, the book of James. I wonder, this elder from the first church, from the first century, you expect he's going to say something spiritual, but for me it sounds so material what he talks about. He talks about tongues, he talks about members of the body, about fleshy things. And for me it sounds like a manual for a student prohibition that says don't talk, what you say.
It can be perceived this way, but I see actually much bigger importance from James putting in there. He actually calls it a source of evil, the tongue, and a deadly poison, which is so. I think he brings it actually as a level of matter of life and death, and I don't find it surprising that the first thing he starts actually with is bringing up the idea of accountability and responsibility.
And now it makes more sense when you say this, because what I just said was just the first impression, but it sounds very, very strong, very scary when he says that teachers, preachers, people of the word will be judged much more strictly. And it made me think, why? Why are they're going to be so accountable, so responsible for what they say? And when I thought about it, I thought the word is such a small thing. It's like a small seed, but it grows in us. And it becomes a giant plant one day, and it produces a behavior of our own, and it affects our whole life.
Teaching used to be about empowering people to make decisions, to think, and to take responsibility. It became more like teaching them what to do now and what not to do, but this is a different topic. What James actually goes and say next, though, is we may be responsible and accountable, but we all stumble in many ways.
But a man who controls his tongue, says James, is able to keep his whole body in check. It seems to me that James is bringing here the topic of self-control.
I think we can accuse James in self-controlling sometimes, but I don't think this is the case, and I'll make my point at the end.
Yeah. But Nick, you would agree with me, it's so easy sometimes for some inappropriate words to slip away from our mouth, and it looks so harmless, but there is nothing as effortless as a word. No action is as effortless as a word.
Words, huh? We're different temperaments. Some of us like to bite when they talk, others are too honest in what they say, and some prefer to keep the peace even if it means not to say the truth if they don't have to. Communication is a challenge.
Yes, it is, and because it carries a tremendous power. A word can shift the mood of a conversation, and it can affect the feelings, the emotions in the conversation, and from there, choices that are made and actions that are taken that follows can be so unpredictable, so unexpected.
My father stops listening to me when I get a bit more passionate in the way I talk. He prefers the peace rather than really hear what I feel and think. When having arguments with my wife, she can get offended by some words that I may say, and even though from my perspective they were not personal or they were just logical reasoning, but after this she can stop hearing what else I have to say, and it does affect our relationships.
Nick, now you're getting so personal, but I get it, and I agree with you. Words are just a mere expression of our thoughts, of our mind, and we are so different, we're so complex, and sometimes a conversation becomes a confrontation. And it's good if we are able to hold our horses back, so that probably we can manipulate and we can tame our tongue for a better conversation, for a better communication.
And if we stopped here, if James stopped here, we can get a little bit to the idea for self-control and holding the horses, and just stops at this point. But in verses 9 to 12, James is saying that we should not from the same mouth do both praising and cursing. It's not possible from the same spring to get fresh water and salt water. So we cannot change this with self-control or holding horses or doing something on our own. It's about our nature. It's about who we are. And this was my point for what I left from the beginning. This lesson is much more than what we say or not. It's about who we are.
And James wants us to be different from within. Although his tone in this chapter sounds a little bit imperative, it's because he's serious about our salvation.